Marina Lopez, whatever feels good for you to say. I am a member of Cooperation Humboldt. I joined as a part of the care and wellness team early on, and am now a part of the arts and culture team, and have had different roles in the last year and a half that I've been with Cooperation Humboldt, and I love this organization. And I'm also joined by Sabrina Miller and David Cobb, who will introduce themselves, I think, as they introduce different work that we're doing. And just a reminder, I think everyone's super familiar with Zoom as a platform at this point, but if you don't mind just muting yourself if you're not talking, just to keep the feedback down while we're presenting. So as we get settled in today and start to join this call, I really want to start with an acknowledgement of the land and the people who are traditional stewards of the land that we're on. Cooperation Humboldt is based in Eureka and Humboldt County, California, and as am I and Sabrina and David. And if you're local to Humboldt, this is traditional Wiyot land and has been since time immemorial, despite genocide, resource depletion, illness, and other incredibly violent forms of settler colonialism. And the Wiyot people and their culture are still here today. And as a way to acknowledge that, there's a group of people locally who started the Wiyot Honor Tax. And it's a tax that individuals, businesses, organizations can pay each year. It's not a tax deduction. It's a contribution and an acknowledgement that we are uninvited occupiers on Wiyot land. And Cooperation Humboldt pays, I believe it's about 1% of our operating budget each year to the Wiyot Honor Tax. And I will throw a link in chat if you're interested in learning more about that. I'm also a small business owner, and I just started paying that this year as well. And I think it's a great place to start and incorporate into each of our practices to be in right relationship with the people whose land we occupy. Thank you again for being here, for joining us. This is just a really fun opportunity for us to introduce Cooperation Humboldt, our theory of change, a little bit about solidarity or economics, and then all the really diverse programming that we're offering within our organization. So we have a jam-packed agenda for you today, and I'm gonna have Sabrina start by giving you an introduction to Cooperation Humboldt and our mission and our theory of change. So thank you so much, and we'll at each section we'll also have the opportunity for questions, and we'll throw any relevant information in there for you for people to contact to sign up for different things. And we'll have some time at the end too if you have any other questions about anything you heard or ways to get involved. So yeah, Sabrina, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Sabrina. I am a member of Cooperation Humboldt's Care and Wellness team, participate in some other projects on the food team as well. So Cooperation Humboldt, we have a mission, and that mission is to build a solidarity economy. What is a solidarity economy? A solidarity economy is a system in which everyone has their needs met in a way that doesn't exploit anyone or harm the environment. Because currently we reside in an extractive economy, which is completely unsustainable. It's destroying the planet, it's causing suffering and oppression among the people, as we are seeing now. And we've been seeing it for a while, but it's gotten to the point where you can't hide from it anymore. So a solidarity economy is regenerative. It works in harmony with nature and with each other in order to ensure that not only are all of our needs being met, but we actually have the space to flourish and grow together and bring everything to the next level. We focus on the principles of caring, kindness, love, where every living being is viewed as equal and sacred. Our theory of change. We all live our lives according to our own personal internalized theory. And so at Cooperation Humboldt, we want to be intentional about our theory so that we can implement it properly and just actively go about developing that. And so the first step to our theory is to resist. We have to fight back against oppression, exploitation, and inequality. We have to resist in order to shift the power from the corporations and the wealthy elite, the politicians, to the local communities. The next step is to build. So what do we turn to in order to escape these oppressive systems? Without alternatives, we're going to remain dependent upon these existing systems. And so Cooperation Humboldt gives space for people to come together in order to develop these alternatives. And this is our focus with the various projects that we have, and gives community members are encouraged to get involved as they grow to build these new regenerative systems that support a solidarity economy. And then in order to achieve successful change, we have to come together as a community to build trust, interdependence, deep, authentic relation with one another. We must empower one another to actively engage and take part in this process of creating lasting and meaningful social change. And what I love about Cooperation Humboldt is that it gives people a space to find their place in the movement, because everyone has one. And if you feel like you can't find one that feels right for you, then you can create your own. That's essentially what I did when I got involved. I just kind of got my feet in a variety of projects until eventually I began collaborating with others to develop a program of our own. And I'm kind of just creating my own role for myself that is completely personal. And so then that's where the inspiration comes in. We have to use our experiences to inspire others to join us as we create a new world for ourselves. The next step is what we believe. And we have a list for that. Yes, what we believe. We believe that our current institutions are fundamentally racist, sexist, and class oppressive. And this is a result of social, political, and economic systems that incentivize domination and exploitation of women, people of color, poor, homeless, disabled, queer, undocumented, and indigenous people. We believe that capitalism is an economic system based upon exploitation and oppression, and that it will destroy the planet if we do not shift to a cooperative and sustainable economic system. We believe it is possible to create new institutions that incentivize cooperation, love, compassion, and kindness, and this new system will be capable of supporting every single person with a good quality of life. We believe in lifting up and supporting groups that are doing grassroots organizing with working class people and people of color who are training organizers at building long-term strategies to resist fascism and create new models for a joyous and collaborative new future reality. We believe we can work with you or your organization, even if you do not believe these things, but we want to be explicit and clear about who we are and what we do believe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for that great introduction to who we are and the things that we believe and the ways that we're willing to work with other organizations in our community with a share, to try and implement the mission that Sabrina stated earlier. So we're going to move on to talk a little bit about how that theory of change and our philosophy inform all of the programming that we offer. So when Cooperation Humboldt was being founded, the group of people who founded it sat down and said, what are the things in a society that are needed to not only survive, but to really thrive and are necessary for our human health and survival? And so from there, we came out with things like housing as a human right, healthcare as a human right, economic democracy, arts and culture. What am I missing? There's others. There's a whole list on our website. And so each food is a human right. And so each of those things that we recognize as essential to our survival and our well-being became our program areas. And under each program area, we offer different projects that are in alignment with whatever that theme is. If it's food, There's a whole list of projects that are under the food team. And so I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about our arts and culture team, because that's one of the areas that I'm really involved in. And so with arts and culture as a foundation of establishing a new and different kind of economy and society, the founders and at Cooperation Humboldt, we really recognize that it's essential, that what arts and culture offers is an opportunity for each of us to have an embodied visceral experience of something, and that artists and makers are visionaries, and they have the ability to imagine and create new worlds for us and new possible futures. And they do it in such a way that they invite each of us into those spaces to imagine with them and to feel that, and to feel it in a way that's so liberatory and so incredible, that we want to keep feeling it. We want to keep revisiting those worlds and imagining and creating with them. And that embodied experience of what it can be like to live in a different world, that's transformational. And that experience is what helps us create over and over again this new vision for a different society. So that's part of why arts and culture is such a big part of the foundation of Cooperation Humboldt. And it was one of the program areas that had some of the earliest projects, like Artists Dismantling Capitalism was my first exposure to Cooperation Humboldt 3.5 years ago when they did it in Eureka. And it's an incredible full-day symposium. The last one we just did in February had 16 workshops throughout the day at the Arcata Playhouse with artists and thinkers and makers and creators, both local and then who came from outside of the area to share their expertise and experience. And it's really an opportunity to not only decommodify the experience that art provides us, but to also acknowledge that each of us are artists, that each of us have the capacity to imagine and envision the spaces and the places and the people that we want to be, and the ways that we want to be in relationship to one another. So really breaking down that barrier that's been created within capitalism and white supremacy of who is allowed to be an artist and share their art. And so it's Artists Dismantling Capitalism is near and dear to my heart, and we are hoping to do our next one. Most likely it will be in an online platform, which actually is really exciting because I think it will provide more access to people. And it will be a really fun challenge for the arts and culture team to create a really interactive and participatory experience that ADC is, and an online platform. So if you're on our mailing list, you should definitely be seeing some of that coming out in the later part of the year. And so we also have a couple projects, one that's in development and one that's in, I think it's 4th or 5th iteration now, that are confronting white supremacy and racism and offering those who are racialized as white or biracial people who are white passing an opportunity to really examine white supremacy within themselves, within our culture, the structures that exist, and start to work in different modalities like theater of the oppressed and image theater and somatics work. And somatics is all about acknowledging that our bodies move through these systems and these structures and they're affected by them. So yeah, offering this breadth of modalities and practitioners to help move through and unlearn white supremacy. We also have a project with a local photographer and social practice artist who is working with the substance use community, with those who are in recovery and formerly incarcerated, to really uplift their voices and their stories and experiences as expert knowledge in navigating crisis amidst losing community. and creating and coalescing that work into a beautiful field guide for not only people in the recovery community to look for and look towards as helpful in their own process, but to the broader community to really use as a way to destigmatize and unravel the shame that is imposed on people who often have those experiences. So our arts and culture team has tons and tons of different projects that we're working on and developing. And I will put a link to that in our website, and you can explore a little bit more. And let's see, there you go. And yeah, are there any questions about anything? I'm just kind of just giving you a brief little introduction to some of the things that we do. Ruthie Engelke, who's the Arts and Culture Program Coordinator, and I did a presentation that goes a little bit more in depth. So check out our Facebook for past events, and you can have a deeper dive on the arts and culture part of that. Someone asked, what's the name of the photographer? His name is Justin Maxon, and I'll put his website in the chat there. Yeah, and he's getting his master's in social practice work. So the work he's doing is really all about collaboration and collectivizing the process, and decentering his voice as you know, like really centering the voices of the participants, and they're part of the creators of that work. So any other questions before we move on? Okay, awesome. Let's see what's next. COVID response. I'll just keep talking. So, you know, the elephant in the room, we are experiencing a global pandemic. And this is really, I'm sure for many of you, shifted what's happening in your lives. As an organization, it absolutely shifted our focus, and especially in the beginning. And we recognize that our local government just didn't have the capacity and the infrastructure set up to really help people in the way that we were seeing people needed help. And so really quickly,
I need a writing.
David, if maybe you could, as a host, mute people.
Yes.
Thank you. So pretty quickly, we set up a COVID response team, and some of that work has included a needs request form on our website, which is offered in both English and Spanish. And anyone can go onto the website and fill out the form that asks you what kind of needs you have, if you need grocery shopping, errands run, medication pickup, and if you have the ability to cover the full cost or some of it or not at all. And so we had a whole, I think we had like 180, 200 volunteers who signed up to help people in the community from Trinidad all the way down to Fortuna. And so we filled, I think, over 150 needs in the first couple of months. And we even had generous donations from the Central Labor Council and the North Coast Food Co-op, who donated food and gift certificates so that we could provide nutritious food to members of our community who were struggling to find food security. We also were a part of a coalition of 13 different organizations who are working together to utilize our networks to really ensure that we were covering each different part of our community, members of the houseless community, senior communities, indigenous communities, and yeah, really trying to figure out what are each of our organizations doing and how can we support and uplift that work. David, Sabrina, did I miss anything there? Anything else you want to add in our COVID response? No? Oh, I think you're muted, David.
Thank you. I think the one thing that I would add is, in addition to the COVID immediate needs response, and actually that number is now 250 that we have actually helped. So we continue to provide that. You can go to the website, cooperationhumboldt.org, and you'll see three things. One, link for an immediate need, and The other things that we have shifted our work, I mean, we'll go through all of our work, which is ongoing, but the COVID shift has been to really acknowledge the reality of what this pandemic has both exposed, but also created. It's exposed the failures of capitalism and the failure of a social political system and a social contract that commodifies things rather than centering human need. So we shifted the food work to the installation of mini gardens, focusing on low income people, and we've already planted 130 mini gardens for low income communities, and we have a waiting list of over 200 more. The third thing is that we've shifted to a worker owned Humboldt, which is a way to help people to create and prepare to become owners themselves, but not owners that then exploit other employees, perpetuating the exploitation of capitalism, but worker owners where every worker is an empowered owner of the business itself. It is a way to do commerce, but a way to do it completely differently. So we're really excited about that. And I do see that Jen, you asked the question I'm going to drop for everyone. If you're not getting our weekly email, I'll drop how to join us, because what we ask people to do is to sign yourself up. That way we can have not just your email, but your phone number and your like what you're interested in and so forth. Because even though you've signed up here, we really want to acknowledge that, oh, thank you, Marina has already done that. So I just want to add that. And we still have a little time if there are any comments or questions about the COVID response that Marina facilitated. And I see Marina is typing, so I'll say, Jen has asked, how can we put in gardens? Jen, if you will make sure to share with, oh, I see that you're already there. I'm going to get you in touch directly with Tamara McFarland. We'll talk about the food in a little bit and go deeper, but I'll just let you know that there are teams that are being built to help with that. We are in motion. So I will absolutely make sure to get you, Jen, directly in touch with the coordinator. And Sharon, I do want to welcome, and I hope that you saw the link that Marina has put in. If you could add yourself, that would be great, because we want to capture as much of the information as you're willing to share. Thanks for the thumbs up there.
Great, thank you. And if there aren't any other questions on that, I'm going to move on to our housing and full spectrum capital projects. So Full Spectrum Capital is a group of impact investors from Silicon Valley. And I know, what's an anti-capitalist organization doing messing around with a group of venture capitalists? Well, I asked myself the same question, but I have been thoroughly convinced. So like David always jokingly says, which I love, he said he realized he is anti-capitalism, but not anti-capitalist, because we need capital to do all of the incredible work that we're trying to do in our communities. And there's nothing wrong with that. So Full Spectrum Capital identified Cooperation Humboldt as one of 7 different communities within the United States who were doing really transformational work. And we're also a part of a group, there's a group down in Santa Ana and other parts of the US. I can't remember the exact locations. And so they approached us and said, we really are interested in the work that you're doing. We'd love for you to create a cluster of projects that we can pitch to our investors. And so one of those projects is called our Artist Hub. And the vision for this, and of course we were, rolling forward really fast before COVID. And once COVID hit, like I said, we really had to pivot our focus, but we're starting to re-engage with them again as things are, I wouldn't say settled, but shifting again. And so the Artist Hub, the vision for that was to have it be not only a Wiyot cultural center for the Wiyot tribe to have their artifacts and their their tribal offices and conference space, but also conference space for other social change organizations like Cooperation Humboldt and the Ink People, and also to include housing and maker space for local artists, because it's housing here is incredibly hard to find that is affordable and safe, and a space to make in, a studio space, is the same thing. A lot of those spaces go to other businesses that have more capital to pay for those. So we really wanted a space that was inclusive and covered people's needs for housing and places to create in. So the vision was for these organizations to come together and share office space and conference space, and to incorporate housing and maker space. So that's the Artist Hub, which we're starting to revamp and revisit again. And David, did you have anything to add to the Artist Hub?
Just one thing, all of the work that we're doing with Full Spectrum Capital as impact investors, they are investors, but they're not looking for equity stake, which is what impact what investors normally do. In other words, like, aha, Marina, you have a great idea. I will cut, but you need money, and you need a lot of money. You need a lot of capital to make it happen. So I'll provide X big, huge number. And in exchange, I get 51% of everything. But don't worry, this is going to be successful. You're going to still own 49% of your idea and all of your work. But I get controlling interest. I actually own it. But you're going to get to be wealthy, but I stay in charge. This is different. These impact investors say the folks that we roll with want to make a return on the investment, but it's at a fixed rate and usually a lower rate. And when you put public and private money together, when you look for folks who are willing to invest, but at a fixed rate, and usually a lower fixed rate than other vehicles, because they want to support an artist hub or a housing cooperative or an eco-village, which we'll talk about in a moment, we're able to put together pretty big chunks of money. And I noticed that Matthew Marshall of RCEA is here. Welcome, Matthew. And I'm really excited about trying to imagine collaborating not just with the WIAT and the Ink People, which is the current artist hub, but we may have an opportunity to collaborate with y'all on a number of different projects. So I just really wanted to point out that, like, what we're trying to do is to think like developers. But as Dee had laughingly called it, venture socialism. Yeah, and you know what? We're socialist developers. We're literally going to develop economic institutions that are based on solidarity economics and cooperative economics rather than private profit maximization. So that's the only thing I wanted to add. And I do know that I'm next, so I'll just keep going, Marina, awesome. and share my screen for just a moment, because I think I'd love to share with y'all the next housing section that we're talking about, which is around an eco-village. If you haven't heard, and again, cooperationhumboldt.com//eco-village, but it's up on the screen now. An eco-village is literally a development that stays completely and utterly rooted in the ecosystem. And frankly, it's how human beings used to live on planet Earth, which is to say all of us, because we all descend from indigenous people who once lived in right relationship with Mother Earth. And our idea is to create a traditional or intentional community that is both economically and ecologically sustainable, that is in right relation with the natural environment and with others. And we already have a core team. They are open to others. They are literally meeting right now on another Zoom platform as they are looking at particular properties and so forth. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the eco-village, go to the website. And as you see, I'll scroll down. There is a place to sign up specifically for that project. And if you want to learn more information, we provide links to the Co-Housing Association of America and I think 5 or 6 different eco-villages that are currently in motion. So I think it's back to you, Marina.
Yep. Cool. And I put a link in chat for the Eco Village on our website because it's actually under, there's a programs tab and then it's under resilience in there. So maybe a little counterintuitive or not easy to find. So the other housing project that we started developing was there's Humboldt State University and College of the Redwoods here, two higher education institutions here, and not enough housing, affordable and safe housing for the students who are attending. So we thought about creating a student housing cooperative as a part of the cluster with Full Spectrum Capital. And the student housing would be a place where students could gather around, like they would have access to affordable housing. It would be safe for them. They could live in community with people who maybe have shared values and vision of the society that they want to create together. And yes, so needed right now. And David, I think there's an update here. Is there an update here with, no?
Well, I mean, there are constantly updates, Marina, and I can tell you that what we have is we are now looking at the update here is we're looking in Blue Lake to actually with the Wiyot tribe and the city of Blue Lake and Del Arte to add Del Arte into the mix to see about doing a housing cooperative development in Blue Lake that would be for their students. And what's interesting is it would be for not only the Del Artians there in Blue Lake, but partnering with the Wiyot, because Blue Lake is close enough to Arcata and Humboldt State that it could be housing for Wiyot students who are going to Humboldt State, right? So that kind of cross partnership is really exciting. And again, we're really looking at breaking down the traditional organizational barriers where sort of orgs get siloed to say, look, we're all part of this community. Let's start leaning into a different way of thinking about how we collectively meet needs.
Absolutely, thank you. I knew there was like an important piece that I was missing there. So that's the housing cooperative, and that's housing kind of as a broader picture of some of the housing projects that we're working on to help meet the needs of people in our community. I know, do we have time for questions or anything pressing?
What I would suggest is we only have like just a little bit longer because we have so much, but what folks have been doing has been really helpful, which is dropping your questions into the chat. Yes. And I think that between Marina, Sabrina, and myself, we should be able to keep the flow going. And we have scheduled time to be able to have some more open-ended discussion at the end.
Definitely. And I think part of the plan too is to continue to host these Love and Solidarity webinars that will deep dive into the program areas, like the one on arts and culture that Ruthie and I did. We'll also go do a deep dive on like the food team and the care and wellness team. So this is just like a really quick overview. And so if you're interested, you know, like we said, sign up for the mailing list, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because that's where we'll post these events.
And Amanda asked, is there a way I can sign up directly to work on the housing co-op? She's currently an HSU student and would love to be involved with that particular project. So I'm going to drop my personal contact because I coordinate that one and would ask you to just reach out to me. And because I also can be reached by cell or text, and that's how you can get in touch with me.
So up next, we have Sabrina with the Care and Wellness team.
Hi guys. Okay, so the Care and Wellness team, we believe at Cooperation Humboldt that health, wellness, and care, they're fundamental human rights. So we want to transform the healthcare system that is currently in place to be more inclusive and all-encompassing and accessible to all. And so our big project that we're working on right now, which I'm involved in because I'm a an active member of the Care and Wellness team, is we're developing a community health worker program, which is something it's designed to not only serve, but also include those that are experiencing homelessness, addiction, and a lack of access to health and wellness services and education. We're currently assembling a coalition with an amazing group of organizations within the community in order to organize the process and further develop the various roles of a community health worker within our diverse community. Some of those organizations are Cooperation Humboldt, Open Door, College of the Redwoods, the Wiyot Tribe, the Yurok Tribal Wellness Court, Hatcher, AJ's Living, All Are Welcome, Native American Pathways, Mercy's Haven. So some pretty big organizations, and we're all trying to tackle this issue because it's so complex and all-encompassing. Like, there's so many different aspects to it. And so the idea of this program is that we want to actively engage individuals in their own experience of receiving services. Like, we want to empower people to come together as a community and exchange care with one another in the form of skills, knowledge, resources, or whatever it is that they need or have to offer. Because sometimes we find ourselves in the role of needing care, and sometimes we are capable of giving it, and both, we believe, are necessary to the process of healing. And so right now what we're doing is we're engaging with these organizations. Our team is engaging with these organizations and the people that they serve in order to develop this program collaboratively so that it benefits everyone involved in a way that suits their individual needs. So we're kind of just figuring out like what the gaps are and how we can fill them, and what a community health worker role would be for each organization, because it's different for every organization. And then the idea is to create like employment and a job and a space for the individuals who are receiving these services to actually turn around and be the ones that go back out into the community that they're a part of, and actually be a community health worker. And like we said, the process of healing is both providing and receiving care. And so, yeah, it's just, we're really trying to just build community and remove the stigma of that surrounds like people experiencing homelessness and addiction, and just kind of let everyone see that it's not you and me, it's us, and we're all being oppressed by the same system. And how can we come together to create something that includes all of us, and realize that like while our stories might be different and our specific problems might be different, it's all kind of rooted in the same thing, which is, you know, someone to talk to, someone to relate to, someone to love, someone to make us feel loved, activities that are life enriching and bring us fulfillment, safe and secure access to resources within the community, and having someone to hold you accountable to following up with those resources, and helping you navigate the complex web of social services within Humboldt. And so we're trying to just like collectivize everything and bring it all together in a way that can work for everyone, but in a way that works for everyone differently, because there's not just a one size fits all solution. So yeah, that's, I see that Marina dropped the link to the Care and Wellness page. And if I can put my personal email in here, like I said, we're in the process of developing this program, and it's one of those things where it's like, we're doing a lot of outreach and having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people and organizations. And so once things start to develop, there's going to be so much space for people to get involved, because we're really looking to do a lot of things. And so if you feel like you have any way that, if that sounds interesting to you and you feel like you have a place within that, and like I said, it's the thing I love about the Cooperation Humboldt projects is if there's not already a role for you, then you can create your own. And that's the beauty of it. And there's so much space for that, and not just space for it, but like it's needed. We need that. We need people who want to engage with the community and encourage others to engage as well and contribute whatever you have to offer, because everyone has something amazing and beautiful to offer. So yeah.
So before we go off of the care and wellness team, Sabrina did a really deep dive on the community health worker, which is appropriate because that's where we're really, really leaning in. And I also want to use this as an opportunity to point out that it is also in the spirit and culture of Cooperation Humboldt is that we look for other organizations already doing work in the basic framework of solidarity or cooperative economics because we don't want to replicate it. And care and wellness is a perfect example because there are so many groups that are already doing work. And of course, we start from the premise that healthcare is a human right. And that means we believe that a single payer healthcare system is the answer to that. But healthcare for all and Physicians for a National Health Plan Humboldt already exists. So we point to them. If you are interested in helping to advocate for a single payer healthcare model, there is already a great organization. We consider them a sister organization. We support them. It's called Healthcare for All and Physicians for a National Health Plan Humboldt. And I think that's one of the things that we really lean into constantly at Cooperation Humboldt is if there are already organizations doing the work around the thing that we're interested in, we say, oh, let's lift that up. Let's partner with them in a supportive way to what they're already doing. But then we challenge ourselves to ask, are there niche opportunities where we can value add our inspiration, our unique skill set, our resources to be contributory to shifting that human need? Pass.
Awesome. Thank you, David, for adding that in. And thank you so much, Sabrina. I'm so excited about what the Care and Wellness team is doing. And you're also going to introduce the food work, so the food team work.
Yeah, so food, another thing that should absolutely, without question, be a human right to everyone. And so it was mentioned earlier, but well, before COVID, what the food team was doing is they were doing full lawn conversions. Why do we have all this bare space when it could be filled with beautiful gardens, filled with food to feed ourselves and our community? But because of COVID and social distancing and just the need to maybe help more people more quickly, we shifted from the full yard conversions to the mini gardens, which David mentioned earlier. We currently have installed close to 150 mini gardens, and the requests just keep coming in. We're working right now to build a consistent network of installation teams, but it's difficult to coordinate, and we are definitely in search of more volunteers. Part of the struggle is people not having a truck to haul soil, and so I know that the food team is working to get maybe more bagged soil, but if you have a truck or know someone who has a truck to donate, then please contact Tamara at Cooperation Humboldt. She's the one overseeing the project. And yeah, so that's definitely a place to get involved. I personally have installed some mini gardens, and honestly, it's the most fulfilling work ever to just show up at someone's house and be like, hey, here's a garden for free. And everyone is just so happy to see you and ask questions and like help with the process. And like sometimes little kids will run out and you can like help them install the garden. It's honestly some of the most beautiful work ever. So I encourage you to get involved, if not only for just like the experience of seeing what that's like to provide someone with something like that.
And before you move on to the mini garden, something that literally just happened this morning on a food team meeting was we agreed that what we were going to do is make the Saturday, August 29, a day where we go hard with as many people as possible. So Jen, I know that you've already indicated an interest. Literally, this is hot off the press. It hasn't even been written up yet. The decision was made this morning. But if you're interested and want to be part of this, put on your calendar Saturday, August 29, and get with Tamara or me or Sabrina, like get with one of us, and we will get you in the loop. And imagine a group of us fanning out across Humboldt and our goal, y'all, in one day, we want to do 20 mini gardens in one day. And it would be awesome if somebody on this webinar helped us to make that happen.
And just to let everyone know, the actual process of installing the mini gardens is pretty simple, and it's not too like taxing on the body or labor. So if you do have any like physical limitations, it's really not that hard. And especially if you're working with someone who can kind of haul and stuff, it's a pretty quick process, usually about 30 minutes. 30 minutes if you're going quick. If you start to like converse with the people, which almost always happens, and it maybe takes a little longer, but it's such a beautiful opportunity to connect with people in the community over something so exciting like giving people free food. Food sovereignty is essential. Okay, the next project of the food team, which is really awesome as well, is the little free pantries. I'm not sure, maybe y'all have seen within the community, there are little like blue boxes that have been converted to little food pantries. Currently, there are 13 active pantries, 11 in Eureka and 2 in Bayside. We are about to receive 11 new pantries, and we have 8 new stewards confirmed. A steward is someone who hosts the free pantry like in front of their property or area. And I've heard beautiful stories from people who are stewards who like have witnessed people coming, getting excited, seeing that the food pantry has been restocked and taking food from it. And just that whole interaction is really nice. So yeah, all pantries are going to be outfitted with brochures inside that spread awareness of our projects. Does anyone else want to add anything about the little free pantries? Oh yeah, anyone can stock them. So if you see a free pantry in the area, and I see that someone dropped a link to the map, or did someone drop a link to the map of that? Okay, so you can see where they are, and if you have any food donations that you want to put in there, you can do that, and that would be awesome. Yeah, so the little for pantries, anyone want to add anything else? No? Okay, the next one.
Okay, I was just going to say that anybody can also take food out of there. If you are food insecure, or you know somebody who may not be able to access the little free pantries, please use them. And I just wanted to add in there too, with the front lawn conversions, even though we've shifted our focus, there are front lawn conversions all over Eureka. I know because that's where I live. And people put out food in the same vein of like that breaking down the barrier of who has access to food, who has the right to fresh and nutritious food. So if you are somebody who needs access to food, or you know somebody, please look. You'll see Cooperation Humboldt signage or Food Not Lawn signage, and oftentimes the stewards of those front lawn conversions will have food out that's clearly marked like this is for community use and supply. So keep an eye out for those too. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Marina. And then that ties us into one of the next food team projects, which is the public fruit trees. We've planted about 80 free community fruit trees in publicly accessible locations throughout Humboldt. And as they mature and begin to bear fruit, we're going to add signage so that folks passing by know the fruit is intended for anyone who wants some. This project is it's only active December through February-ish of each year, just because of the nature of fruit trees. And so nothing's really happening right now, but we're going to be doing it again in about 6 months. So yeah, that is it for the food team. And now we can open up space for discussion, or David and Marina, if you have anything to add to that.
Thank you, Sabrina. You did such a wonderful job. I also want to just share that for us at Cooperation Humboldt, the entire food team is premised on recreating this area as the food forest it once was. And I want to be really clear, before white folks came and settler colonialism disrupted the way social, political, and economics happened by the Wiyot, who were stewards since time immemorial, food was so plentiful that it was just nurtured and harvested. That's what we want to return to. You see, for us, decolonization is not merely an academic exercise. It is a way of liberating our own minds about how we think about our relationship to Mother Earth, where we are, our relationship to each other. And we're literally dedicated to creating a food forest here so that nutritious organic food is so plentiful that it is no longer a commodity that has to be bought and paid for at a profit, but is available to everyone. And a quick pop quiz, I mentioned fresh organic food, right? So what did our grandparents call organic food? Does anyone know? I see you going for it, Sharon. Say it out loud.
Food.
Food. Thank you. Right? Like, this is the thing. It is literally a mindset. Like we are dedicated to changing the narrative, to changing how we are and how we be. And that is something that I think Sabrina really captured by describing all of the different projects associated with our food team. And if you are the kind of person for whom food sovereignty is something that really inspires and excites you, then there is definitely a place for you and with you on the Cooperation Humboldt food team. Oh, and I see Amanda writes in that Humboldt Mutual Aid is working on a similar project, looking for a fridge to keep free food fresh as well. That's an awesome idea, Amanda. It's interesting. We're doing the same thing. And I'll let you know that what we found is that you can do something called a swamp cooler, where you just take a wax box, which one of the heavy boxes, and wet it with a towel and place it over it. And that will allow fresh produce to stay good in that container for about a day. So if I would encourage y'all to take a look at swamp coolers, because that's what we're doing. Because we have several distribution sites for fresh produce. We are also looking for a fridge, but that's a hard thing to come by. So that's our workaround, and I hope that y'all at Humboldt Mutual Aid find that helpful.
And David, with that, you are up next to introduce economic democracy. And I think I'm going to take this moment to just bow out and say thank you so much to everyone for being here. It's such a pleasure to do these info sessions and see so many new faces or names on the screen. And I'm super excited to hopefully meet you digitally first, and then someday in person. I know that we will collaborate and share in the joy that is Humboldt County and Cooperation Humboldt, and this incredible vision that we are actually doing together. This is actually happening. We're not just talking. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, David and Sabrina, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Adios.
Thank you, Marina, and thank you so much for kicking us off in such a beautiful way and for giving us an hour of your time. I know that things are pressing now. Oh, Shai, hit me up. And we'll absolutely work with you on that. So, and Deborah is here, but making masks. That makes me so happy to imagine that happening. So I am tasked with talking about our economic democracy program. And I really want to lean in on this one because y'all, like, to us, economics, it literally comes from the Greek, and it just means the management of the household. So we really try to break down that like, if you balance a checkbook or you like pay rent, if you manage, like, if you are in this society, you are an economist. And we don't believe that the idea of economics is something like, I think I can teach basic economics to any elementary school student. I can teach economics to high school students. I can teach basically the difference between a capitalist economy and a solidarity economy to anyone. This is not something that we think is beyond the scope of any reasonable person. And we are trying to de-emphasize the idea that only experts can do these things, right? It ain't rocket science, as they say. Like, how we actually organize our society, we can all collaboratively participate in. And it's in that process that the economic democracy program area has focused on three key things. The one that I'm personally most excited about is called public banking. And this is the idea of democratizing the very idea of financial institutions. beyond credit unions, which are like, it goes like this. In financial institutions, there's big Wall Street banks, which are the worst. Then there are community banks that are still privately owned and usually very wealthy people, but from an individual community, own and operate, benefit from, and get to make the decisions. Less bad, and in fact pretty good, are credit unions, where the decisions are made to benefit the members of that credit union. But the single best type of financial institution is a public bank. And not to be coy, but the difference between a public bank and a private bank, a public bank is owned by the public. And every single decision about that public bank is made to benefit the overall public. There is no need to attempt to return profits to shareholders because there aren't any shareholders. And so if anybody has ever bought a home, for example, you know that over half of the money you pay for that home is for the mere privilege of borrowing money, right? And that money goes to the banks themselves. And yes, absolutely, DASC is like depositor-owned mutual banking. That's exactly what it is. D, you literally have captured the very essence of public banking, something that took me quite a bit of time. So your ability to like cut to the chase is really amazing. And thank you, Sharon. We love you so much. It's so good to see you. And you and I are going to be doing a lot of stuff together. And I'm really grateful to have seen you on this webinar. So public banking is something that we're working on, and we helped to write a bill for public banking. It is in the California legislature as we speak. In addition to that, we're working on participatory budgeting, which is a way to get the public involved in making the public decisions on where our tax dollars go. This is a way to both empower people, but also to show them and give them the responsibility that you can't just demand more money for schools, more money for healthcare, more money for this, more money for that, but to recognize that actually there are competing interests, and we've got to come together in participatory processes to make those sorts of decisions. We partner with the Participatory Budgeting Institute, PBI, this is mostly aspirational, but if that's the sort of thing that you're interested in, get in touch with us at Cooperation Humboldt. The last thing is much more sort of concrete and practical, and that is a tool lending library. Imagine for a moment a library that's not just about is not about books, but is actually has a lawnmower and a weed whacker and a power drill and saws and hammers, and like you imagine any handheld tool, and we are beginning to stock those. We have a shipping container at our office at the Labor Temple. It is full, or it is getting full with tools. All you have to do is go to the website and sign up, and you can start borrowing tools. Again, the idea is like, I don't need, I literally just recently borrowed our weed whacker. I don't need to go buy a weed whacker that I'll use only occasionally. There is a tool there at the tool library that I and Katie and Sabrina and Linda and Amanda and Stephanie and anybody else can just check out, use it, bring it back. What we're trying to do is foster the idea of sharing, the idea of collaborating with one another. And the tool lending library is a way to do that. The last thing that I want to share is called Worker-Owned Humboldt. And I am actually going to share my screen very quickly so I can just show that to you. A worker-owned cooperative is a business that, just like other businesses that buy and sell goods, but the difference is that they are owned by their members and their workers rather than shareholders. So worker cooperatives empower workers to make the decisions that impact their own lives and their livelihoods, and they share in the profits. So if you click the link, you can see what is a worker-owned cooperative, and that would take you there. But we're also excited to say we offer free webinars, 90 minutes of just an introduction to co-ops and what that would mean. The next one starts August 27. If you're interested, just click the link and sign up. in addition to the free webinars, we have something called a worker-owned academy, which is a really deep dive. Let's say you have gone through the free webinar and you're like, okay, I actually want to pursue the idea of a worker-owned business with a couple of folks. I'll use Sabrina as an example because she's in a she just went through the worker-owned academy because her and Oscar and Tobin are exploring creating a community health worker-owned co-op. So they go through a deeper dive on how businesses work, what you'd actually need to do that. How do you make and implement decisions in a cooperative business? It is a way to actually begin to develop a business plan. And we are working and partnering with the Small Business Development Corporation as well as others to help find financing for such businesses, which brings me to the third one, which is we have a worker cooperative incubator, where if you've gone through that and are actually to the point where you're ready to either convert an existing business to a co-op, or you're like, okay, I'm ready to actually start this, then you go into the incubator. And y'all, in one session, we have not one, not two, not three, but 4 businesses in the Cooperation Humboldt cooperative incubator. And just imagine what that actually can do and will do for our community to be able to actually make that make the shift in our economics. So when I say that the economic democracy program, in essence, it's about democratizing finance, democratizing money, and about being able to underwrite and finance all of the work that we're doing. So I'm going to stop there for a moment because that's a big one, and just ask if there are any comments or questions about the economic democracy program area. Cool. Well, the next thing is a pathway to leadership at Cooperation Humboldt. And I'm going to once again share my screen because I want to give you an opportunity to see how Cooperation Humboldt operates. And what you're looking at is the page on the About Us, or who we are, so that you can really see how Cooperation Humboldt is different. Because our organizational structure is as non-hierarchical as possible. It allows people to get in where they fit in and work and play with us in ways that is really meaningful to them. Please notice that at the core of the leadership circle are 2 additional circles that are independent: a board of directors and what we call the core team. Note that the board of directors, it's not a triangle with the board of directors at top, but it's not even the board of directors as the center of the bullseye. The center of the bullseye is the entire leadership circle, and the board of directors and the core team are both playing different roles in making it happen. The board of directors is a typical board with fiduciary responsibility to meet the California code for a tax-exempt organization and blah, blah, blah. But the core team, and you can click the link there and you can find out more about the core team. But the core team are a group of people who have gone through a study group cohort, are actively participating in at least one Cooperation Humboldt program or project area, and has said that they want to self-identify as a Cooperation Humboldt leader, which can and will look differently for each one of us. And Sabrina, I'm going to go back to you and ask you to share. So you are now a member of the Cooperation Humboldt core team. So you were literally in the leadership circle and only really started to roll with us about a year ago. So I'm going to invite you to talk about the trajectory that you experienced and what that was.
Yeah, so I came onto Cooperation Humboldt just with vague interest in a couple of the projects that they were doing. And through that, I was just kind of welcomed into the various meetings that were going on. And I just, I didn't really know what my role was. And I definitely did not see myself as a leader in any way. And I was kind of intimidated by how talented and amazing everyone was within Cooperation Humboldt. So I was like, yeah, there's no way that I could be a leader. I'll just do the projects and get involved in that way. But I just kept showing up to meetings and offering my input, even though sometimes it really wasn't much. But the thing about the way that the leadership works in Cooperation Humboldt is that it's not hierarchical, so it's not competitive. It's like everyone was very supportive and encouraged me to take on as much as I was capable of, because that's another thing. I've never felt like I was shamed or made to feel like I wasn't made to feel bad because if I didn't feel like ready to take on a large amount of work or a large amount of responsibility. I was very much met where I was at, and everyone really worked with me to help me develop my skills that made me more of a leader and just better human being in general. But yeah, and then suddenly all of a sudden I found myself with a lot to contribute and able to take on a bunch of tasks, and I just kind of fell into the role of leadership. It's not really like I was striving to get there. So that's just what I love about the organization, is that it makes it so easy for people to get to that role, because we encourage it. We want everyone to be a leader, but we also understand that not everyone wants to take on that much work or that much responsibility. And so it meets you where you're at and helps you get to whatever level that you want to get at. And another thing is that it's not you become a leader and then you're there forever. I very much have seen people kind of go navigate the web of leadership. So they'll be very involved and then they'll pull back as because life happens and emotions happen and things happen, and sometimes you have more capacity than you are at different times in your life. And so yeah, I've seen people be in the leadership circle and then move back to just supporters, and then they're involved in projects and then they have to pull back, but they'll remain on as an advisor, kind of just giving their input and staying in the loop, maybe waiting and looking for a time that's appropriate for them to get re-involved in the project. And that's what's so beautiful about that, is that everyone just receives so much love and support for whatever decision that they decide to make and wherever they're at. And so yeah, if you have any interest in getting involved in this type of work, I definitely encourage you to just kind of show up to meetings, show up to webinars, just become a active participant in projects, and then feel out your way within the various program areas and see if being a leader feels right for you, or if it's not something you're interested in, then you can kind of just remain in whatever level of participation that feels appropriate.
Thank you, Sabrina, for that share. And I've put back onto the screen that the diagram again, so you can just see the leadership circle, board of directors, and core team. Again, Sabrina and Marina are both on the core team. But then there's active participants and supporters and even prospects. And honestly, everybody here we consider at the very least a prospect, because you've shown up to say, hey, I'm interested in learning more. All you have to do is to be a supporter is sign up to that email list, because those are the folks that we call supporters. And because you've at least said, I support you enough to want to know on a weekly basis what you're up to or what other things that are happening in solidarity economics are happening in Humboldt. But you'll notice that the active participants is the next one, and that is get actively involved in any one of our projects or programs, and you will be empowered to participate in whatever level you want. And as Sabrina said, if you want to get into the leadership circle, we have a mechanism for that. And I want to be really explicit, y'all. One of the reasons that we've been so successful is because to get into leadership, requires not just active participation, but the willingness to go through a study group cohort. And a study group cohort, and I'm going to share my screen again to really touch base on this. Our study groups are free and open to anybody, but they are an opportunity for us to go deep together, to look at both our individual selves and our larger society, to understand how white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, and settler colonialism as power over dominating worldviews and systems have impacted ourselves, our hearts, our minds, our society, and ask, how can we dismantle those? Each study group is built on these intersecting frameworks, and it's a flipped classroom format with relevant, engaging course group before each meeting. It's literally only 90 minutes every 2 weeks. The reading is about literally 15 pages or so before we go forward. So if you want to become a part of our next study group, I've got the email there, and I'm going to actually put this into chat for you with a letting you know that the next study group is going to launch probably in mid-August. So if anybody here would like to participate, we would love to have you. We have done, so our study groups, again, there's not a test at the end of this, y'all, right? But the point is that the study group is where we build social solidarity with one another, design a shared analysis. Because if you remember, and Sabrina talked about what we believe this society is fundamentally racist, sexist, and class oppressive. We believe capitalism will destroy the planet. And it ended with, does anybody remember how it ended? We believe we can work with you even if you don't believe these things. So we are very sincere. We'll work with anybody on our various projects. But to get into leadership of Cooperation Humboldt, I'm not going to debate whether white supremacy is real. I'm not going to debate with a leader at Cooperation Humboldt whether patriarchy is a problem, right? I have those debates and discussions outside all the time. I bet you do too, right? You take people where they are, but part of what we're doing is developing a real connected group of folks who are throwing down with the idea that we are peaceful, loving, compassionate revolutionaries. Straight up, our entire reason that Cooperation Humboldt exists is to prove that we can meet all of our needs without exploiting or oppressing anyone, without allowing anybody to exploit or oppress us, and that can be done in an ecologically sustainable manner. And we center love, compassion, kindness, and forgiveness in all of our work. So if that is the sort of thing that you would be interested in, sign up. We've done 13 of these, and the current study group cohort, I'm really excited to share. We're doing not one, not two, but 3 simultaneously because there's been this much interest. So we know that we have put a lot of information out there, but y'all, we're doing a lot. And what we tried to do was give everybody just a taste in this introductory survey format for not only who we are and what we do, why we do it, and then to invite you to participate in whatever way makes sense. And with that, I'm going to stop and just ask for any comments, any questions to either Sabrina or me on any of the projects. This really is just open space that we've left for all of this. And thank you, Stephanie, for using the chat. For those of you who can't see it, Stephanie writes in, thank you so much for this presentation. Amazing work, Cooperation Humboldt. Thank you, Stephanie.
I just want to add real quick that we have lots of diagrams and terms and things, so everything sounds so formal and organized, and it is, and that's why Cooperation Humboldt is successful. But in the end, what this organization is just we're people and we're community members who want to make a change, and we want to be a part of that change. And so like everything being involved in Cooperation Humboldt just feels so organic and natural, and the meetings and the conversations, they just flow so like beautifully. And I was in one of the study groups, and it wasn't like it was a study group, definitely. There was so much information, but it was just like the most beautiful dialogue between just a diverse group of individuals, and facilitated in like an organized way, but it all just felt so great. And so don't ever be like intimidated or put off by like the formality of things, because once you get involved, you realize that it's so organic and beautiful, and that's just like how life can work, and it's awesome. I never would see myself, or in the past I never would have seen myself like doing these types of things, hosting webinars, but like it just starts happening for you because it's just great. It helps you find purpose in life and create your own role in reality, and it's really awesome.
Oh, thank you for that. And I also want to actually acknowledge Jen wrote in with a thank you for all you do. Priscilla wrote in to say that she looks forward to learning more and engaging. Dee says, thank you, everyone. It's also very cool. So thank you for the love and the support via chat. That really feels super good. Maxwell writes in with thank you for putting this presentation on. And some folks have written to me in private chat, so I'll follow up with those and will absolutely respect that those are private chats. So again, we still have a little bit of time. Feel free to just sign off if you need or want to, but we do want to give folks who might have a question or a comment just the space to do so. So you can either do it in chat or just unmute yourself and jump right in. So Katie has written in, thank you for she says, great intro. Thank you for that. That makes me happy. She recently moved to Arcata and just learning more about it. And so here's the thing, we're literally 3 years old. Marina in the beginning talked about how the first artist dismantling capitalism where she got involved. That's literally the very first thing that Cooperation Humboldt did. It really makes me proud to say like our very first public thing was called Artists Dismantling Capitalism. And it came because a group of us had seen a public art space called Synapsis basically get priced out of the market by a cannabis company. And this amazing art space was lost. And I went to lament it, and many others did. And I said, it just it appalls me because this is just going to keep happening. What can we do to actually stop it so that we don't have to watch over and over artists go into places, make it cool, and then capitalism says, okay, we can commodify that cool, and artists get driven out, right? Like that's totally a thing. It happens all the time. And so that became Artists Dismantling Capitalism as a way for us to actually try to imagine, well, how could we prevent that from continuing to happen in this community? So Linda writes in to say, I appreciate this presentation and learning how we can all become part of co-creating a different and healthier way of being. Yay. Carolyn writes in to say, not sure if this is the right place to ask, but I'm wondering if y'all could speak on the recent Rolling Justice webinars and what they will be doing going forward. It absolutely is. Sabrina, I've been doing a lot of the talking. I wonder if you want to talk about the Rolling Justice webinars and what that was about.
To be honest, I wasn't able to attend because I had work.
Okay, that's right. Working class people doing working class things even while we restructure society. So I'll just say Rolling Justice is a first of the month, every month place where we do caravans to do public protests against and calling for the cancellation of rent, cancellation of mortgages, and calling for a different way to respond to this pandemic. And then we decided to do a deeper dive, so not just demonstrations, but to do a deeper dive on how can we organize on 3 concrete projects. One was public banking, which I've already talked to you about. The second was forming a tenants union. and our colleagues at the North Coast People's Alliance took that on. And if you're interested in that, I can help facilitate getting you in touch there. And the third one was defund and/or abolish the police. And that was taken on by our colleagues at Centro del Pueblo. So if you're interested in any one of those three very specific projects, Carolyn, that's where that actually lands. So we are self-organizing each of those different kind of concrete campaigns. So I want to be clear, Cooperation Humboldt is not sort of directing any of them, but we're doing our best to help co-facilitate the organic development of campaigns. Again, Centro del Pueblo as the anchor for the defund the police effort, North Coast People's Alliance as the effort to build a tenants' rights or tenants' union network, and Cooperation Humboldt sort of holding the work for public banking.
Yeah, I've been at the past few, every first of the month we do like an actual like kind of like rally type thing, and then reconvene and then kind of have like a group community discussion, like a forum type setting. And it's really awesome. It's kind of just like, we want those to grow because it's really important for a community to come together and have these conversations and educate each other about the history of various groups of people within Humboldt County and the oppression that took place for like certain groups. And like the last one, they actually went around Eureka and visited various sites that have like a history of either like oppression or genocide or just like dark histories, but that are important for us to know because we have to know like what we're working with. And it's really awesome to watch these conversations and groups grow.
Thank you for that addition, Sabrina. Any final comments or questions? And again, like it's just open space. So Caroline writes in to say, super excited. Thank you to all and everyone. So I will, since it looks like there are no more final comments or questions other than the chat, I'll just give everybody a chance if you want to come off mute and say goodbye or send a heart or a wave or whatever it is that you want to do. Thank you all so very much for participating. And I want to actually lift up Sabrina. This was the first time that she did this. And Sabrina, I just want to say you were awesome, as I knew you would be. So another example, y'all, of what it looks like when you just support somebody to allow them to become the leader that they are. Sabrina Miller, you were awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for giving me space to be.
Bye, everybody. Please, if you haven't yet, sign up at Cooperation Humboldt so we can be in touch.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, David.
Yes.
You hear me? Awesome.
Yeah.
I actually have one last question, and I was wondering if you're going to hang on for a sec. This is
yes, there almost always is. So yeah. There are a couple of others. So, but I'm here, and I've got another 30 minutes, so I can stay as long as anybody needs.
Okay. Awesome. I just had a quick question about the fruit trees. So the next time, correct me if I'm wrong, the next time that you guys will be planting the public fruit trees will be 6 months from now.
More or less. I mean, it is the fall, right? The late fall, early winter, when it's the right time to plant those trees, right?
Right.
So if you're interested in helping to plant them, you know, we can. That's when they'll be planted. However, if that's something that really like excites you and inspires you, I can tell you that another thing that we're trying to do is locate other trees that are in public places, add them to a list, and then have a group of us who are dedicated to gleaning from them and getting them in the hands of people.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that idea. Are there a lot of fruit trees that are public already, or is this kind of like a new initiative?
Well, it's interesting. We planted, I think, 80 last season, right? And not to be whatever, but I'll just admit that. So I am here in Eureka, and I don't know, a decade ago, 12 years ago, I planted 5 or 6 fruit trees on the outside of my fence line. So the Cooperation Humboldt obviously didn't exist, but I did it because the whole idea was I wanted to share food. And so I'm already like that. And so that's clearly, it's already in production. So I'm already sharing apples and pears and plums in my little area. We have other fruit trees that are already, that we know about, that are in public places where the food is available like that as well. So I hope I'm answering the question. In other words, we're planting young fruit tree saplings in grafts that are not yet in production, but we're also trying to identify other places and people like me who had just done it on our own, but to get them connected to a network of, hey, this is part of a food forest.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. So is that map available online?
It is. If you go to the Cooperation Humboldt website, click through the public fruit trees, and it should be there.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. Totally makes sense. I'll be tuning into your future meetings. Thank you for everything.
And Kate, or Katie?
Katie, yeah.
Katie, I hope that we have inspired you to join a study group, because the kind of questions that and the way you participated tells me that you would be a great person to get into the path of leadership for Cooperation Humboldt.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking one of those out. So I'll be sending over an email soon.
Fantastic. And so Dee, I see you asked, are there nut trees anywhere? And that's a great question. And the short answer is not to my knowledge, right? But I would love that idea. I don't know, what nut trees would really do really well here. Maybe you do, but that's a great idea, especially because nuts are the kind of things that you can not just harvest, but store really easily. Which also leads me to share that we're working with the folks at the Humboldt Permaculture Guild to start offering some trainings and classes on basic food preservation stuff. And so Dee, I'd like to put a few nut trees on the outside of my fence. You have an apple tree. Ah, that's nice. And this is the thing, Dee, you're like, so I did that too individually. Please hit me up privately and let's get you connected to to this so that we can get you into that mix. Oh, Dee, you're going to be a pantry steward. Yay, that's fantastic news. And I can tell you also that it's really exciting because most of them are going up now in Arcata and Manila. So, we're really pretty Eureka focused right now. Got a couple in Bayside, but all the rest are in Eureka. But this next batch of 11 are almost all going to Arcata, McKinleyville, or Manila. So we're expanding the network. And Shai wrote to me privately about and may not have meant it to be private, so I'm just going to put it publicly for those who are left about how or a website for plant rooting, ball grafting, growing through a box. So I haven't even looked at it, but I'd bet $1 to a donut that was not meant for me privately. So thank you for that, Shai. And Amanda, it looks like I've got the little yellow box saying that you may be trying to speak, but you're on mute. So if you want to unmute, you can share, or maybe, but it looks like you're trying to speak. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording. I want to thank everybody for your participation. And Shai, again, I've given you my contact information, so please do hit me up and let's continue the conversation. Thanks, everybody.